Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to Goddess in Training. I'm your host, Sarah, and today's episode is extra special. I'm joined by my friend Mage Marigold, a psychic medium, music therapist, and spiritual mentor who played a pivotal role in nudging me towards starting this very podcast. Her message from my spirit guides in one of her mediumship classes was the spark that reminded me of a dream I'd nearly forgotten. That dream became Goddess in Training. In this conversation, Mage and I talk about intuition, spirit guides, relationships, and how emotions can be powerful gateways to deeper knowing. Her approach blends tarot, music therapy, energy work, and deep compassion. And she shares some truly jaw-dropping stories about cheddar cheese, pink azaleas, and spirit-led fashion advice. And as a gift for listeners, Mage is offering a free 7-day synchronicity tracker to help you deepen your connection with the signs and messages all around you. You can grab it on her website, linked in the show notes. Let's get into it. All right. Thank you so much, Mage Marigold, for joining us today on Goddess in Training. So a little bit of a backstory about how I know Mage. I moved to this new town in the Roanoke Valley about a year ago, and you can read about it on my Substack, but I really didn't know why I was here. I kind of followed my son, but I just was like on instinct, like I need to move, and bought a house, the first house that I saw, and so I ended up here. I had no friends, had no idea what went on in this town. Very soon after, I found this great community of folks exploring metaphysical things at Glow in Salem and started attending classes there. And one of the classes was with Mage Marigold on mediumship. Actually, you taught a bunch of classes on mediumship and tarot, and just found a wonderful, wonderful community of people who are exploring all of these things. And I also got a lot of personal guidance from Mage Marigold. I think it was the first class that I came to. I don't know if it was tarot or mediumship, but I sat down, and part of what you did was you would give each person there a personal message and what's coming in from their spirit guides. And you said something about a podcast, and I was like, oh my God, no way. No fucking way. And because I had had this dream 2 years ago about creating this, Goddess in Training, this podcast, and the fact that you said that right away was just mind-blowing to me. So let's start there. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how you ended up at Glow, and if do you remember that day and what came through from my spirit guides that day?
Yeah, I remember the podcast being the big thing. And I think like the look on your face that I could tell like I hit something big. But I think like the first thing I remembered seeing was like they were showing me flashes of former versions of you. And like you were in this process of like building this bridge to like connect those aspects of yourself to who you are in this lifetime. And it was very like high priestess energy. Like you were speaking to people, you were up on this platform, you had things to say, and a lot of people were listening to what you had to say. So I knew you were on some sort of big journey that was here to help people really I feel like cut out the bullshit. I think I also remember seeing a machete, and I didn't know at the time that you were like doing the Costa Rica stuff, but I was like, I feel like I see you like hacking through a jungle. Now that I'm talking about it. Yeah, you're like literally hacking through a jungle, but helping people like figure out how to spiritually do that for themselves was a big part of your journey. And that's been my journey. So I think that's, for me, getting to Glow and being around all these people that it seems like they were on that very similar path of, I've gone through a lot of really, really intense life lessons really quickly, and now I feel like I'm in this stage of becoming, and I don't know exactly why I was brought here, but I'm here. Every single person that I feel like would come to the community would be like, I don't know why I'm here, what I'm doing, and we're like, join the club.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually, my background, I'm a board certified music therapist, and I'd done hospice work for like 7-8 years. Had an injury, had to take some time off, and did like some brief sales work for a nonprofit. And the only job that I've ever been fired from, it was like came out of the blue. I was actually applying for this position for a music therapy job in the area here. And then like I accepted that job, and the next day they were like, you know what? Like, we're gonna fire you for being out for a pre-approved surgery. And I was like, okay, well, fine, that's fine, whatever. So it like flung me into this area, and I thought it was because it was closer to my family. It was like spirit aligning me on the right track. I had kind of really surrendered to the spirituality journey at this point, and was there for about a year at that hospice company, and was like, here I am being taken advantage of again professionally, and I feel like I could do more for myself, and I'm tired of working for other people. So that pushed me to start a music therapy private practice, which is no longer in operation. Because that was really just like my safety blanket of, I wasn't ready to step into this leadership role, to be a high priestess, to be a prophetess. And my cousin at the time was like, girl, start a TikTok channel. Like, I didn't even own a TikTok channel at that point. And she was like, start doing tarot readings, because what you say to me in private is super helpful. So it's like this big conglomerate of like using glow to try to do music therapy and like tap into this, because there's a lot of beauty that I think we'll probably talk about, and how it all works together. But it was like, how do I remarket that and repackage that for a different flavor palette? So yeah, it flung me at Glow, and then I got to see everybody else's stories be almost pretty identical to, okay, well, we're all here for some reason. And I think it's been to like raise the collective vibration of this area.
Yeah, to stay on that topic just for a second, the other thing about Glow and what I appreciated about your classes and the community too is that, even though this was probably a year ago now, June 2024, all of the messages that were coming through were about the world falling apart. And the Tower card comes up all the time. And I felt like we all knew and understood that this was coming and this was happening, and that it was all going to be okay. Whereas the rest of the world did not understand that that was happening and was in denial, and actually a lot of people still are in denial about this happening. But it was just such a refuge to be around people who understood the world in the way that I understood it too, and to have that just the hope and the certainty that everything's going to be okay reinforced in every single class. Can you talk a little bit about that and your experience of where we are collectively in the world right now?
Well, I think it's a great example of the teacher presents itself when the student is ready, and you're either part of the collective that understands the assignment and go, okay, I've signed up for this class either before this lifetime, or something's happened in this lifetime to motivate me to do this or to be this version of myself. And I'm ready to like dive into that dark abyss that most people are way too afraid to even look at or acknowledge is there. So I think when like all this stuff was happening in the world, and still is happening in the world, some people can't see beyond their current experience, and that's for a reason, right? Like the way that we transition out of things that we're no longer meant to is we have to feel it and to the extreme. We experience as much trauma in that vein as we can until we're finally ready to switch and operate differently, or to see differently. And then we have that different viewpoint, or we're able to see things differently. We're able to like look at that burnt toast theory, right? But some people get so caught up in their own experiences that it just they can't see, they can't get out of their human experience. And it's an important part. You have to apply those human experiences to really break through that those ego barriers that keep you from being really fully open. But yeah, it's just really, I think, again, that vibration shift, like when we were all in that space together and all being able to think just like witness each other's vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Instead of masking and throwing it out at everybody else and being angry about it. Like, yeah, be angry about it, but what does that mean and what do you do with it, right? And can you do that in a collective way that's going to benefit you and everyone else? Because that's the name of the game.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's my hope with this podcast, and I think with what you're doing, and and there's no competitive nature about it either. Like, we all lift each other up, and collectively we lift each other up, and that's what's going to make the world a better place. And we definitely saw that at Glow. It just was a really special thing. And so at Glow too, I was just blown away, not only by the messages that you had for me, but just the messages that you had just going around a circle of people, 10 people, and you pinpointed, I think, for every single person, and were able to say exactly what they needed to hear in that moment. Was just so neat. And sometimes it was like ancestors or recently deceased people. Other times it's, spirit guides. Can you talk a little bit about what your experience is when you're channeling?
Honestly, it is like being lost in the sauce. A lot of people, I'll tell them ahead of time, like, make sure you take notes or you're welcome to record this, because when I get into it, like, I'm very much a physical medium. I'm a trance medium. So I've built comfortability with being able to sense, is this a good energy that I can allow to kind of like take over? Or is this something I need to like keep my guard up? And my spirit team kind of fact checks that for me and then allows things in. So, sometimes it's really hard to remember exactly what I'm saying. Like, I get kind of caught up in the moment too, and things just kind of come out, and then I realize like I've said something, or like it's been impactful for somebody in some sort of a way that I'm like, oh, okay, that was like the exact right languaging that they needed. Or there was just like the right little synchronicity or like confirmation in how I said that. That's what it's all about for me. Like, I obviously I love clients, but my goal is for people to feel like they have their own tool case, and that they're able to, use what they have when they need it. And of course, if you need, that validation or that support in navigating it, we're, as healers and helpers, we're always there, but really helping you figure that out for yourself.
Mm-hmm. What I've seen too, I had the privilege of watching you help my sister and my best friend. And like you said, with the language, it was so interesting with Emmanuel. You said, like, right off the bat, the phrase, "it is what it is." I had never heard you say that before, ever. And that is his phrase. Anybody who knows him, like, he says it is what it is every day, all day. And I think that what I feel like it is, it's like, it's a way to give people permission to tap into their intuition and to believe in themselves. And like, I think that what you're doing, or what I saw you do, is kind of unlock that for people and expand their minds into what is real and what's not, and get a sense of what their real purpose is. And it's so beautiful to see that happen. Do you have any standout stories of times that you've helped people?
I was just thinking about it. I was at the Screamiverse convention, which was like so different for me. And I got to work with so many different individuals, but my plug was, really channeling the dead and talking to the other side, as well as the tarot and everything else that I do. And a young man and his mother sat down.
Oh, wow.
And they were being very quiet, but they weren't closed off, because sometimes you can tell like people are closed and like, I'm probably not gonna be able to get much from you. But they were very quiet, and I could tell like they were just taking in everything that I was saying. And it was getting into a point where I was like, giving him life advice and the guidance was helpful, but then I said something like, you're a runner, like you need to be running to like get your energy moving, get flowing, like get connected, open up that channel. And like he went like white as a ghost. He was like, I'm literally training for a marathon.
Oh, wow.
So then like his mom stepped in and she was like, is there anybody coming through for me? And I was like, I'm seeing like pink azaleas. And she was like, my mom, her driveway used to be lined with pink azaleas. It's like all these like confirmations that are so special for people that, again, like what you're saying, it just builds that trust of, oh, I know that this is true. Or there's no way that you could have known this any other way. I'm also thinking of the cheddar cheese lady, which I think you probably know this story, that I was working a farmer's market and I was selling stained glass. And this lady comes across, like beelines across the parking lot, and she's like, what does she say to me? She was like, "Are you Wiccan?" And I was like, oh, wow. Like, we're in like Bedford County, Virginia. This is very rural farm town. Bible Belt, like not an area that we say the word Wiccan, yet alone scream it across a parking lot in front of a bunch of people.
Right.
Then I was like, well, not really, but I think I know what you're hitting at. How can I help? She was like, I just feel so connected to you spiritually, and I don't know why. And I was like, well, I am a medium, and I do connect with people on the other side. I'm just going to throw this out here because it might be weird, but I'm getting cheddar cheese. And she instantly like started sobbing. And I was like, okay, cheddar cheese. And she like gets it together enough to be like, my mom passed not too long ago. And the only thing that I've been craving is her homemade mac and cheese, where she used to spend so much time like hand grating that cheddar cheese.
Oh my God.
And that was like for her to know, like anything else that I was going to say, that was coming from her mom. Right. So it's like, and I give myself goosebumps when I think about it, but yeah, just like for people to have that trust and to know, like, because there's a lot of scam in the spiritual community. There's a lot of people that are like, I can tell you exactly what you want to hear, and like there are general messages that all passed on loved ones want to share, like, you know, I am at peace, I'm working through my stuff. But it's just it's so beautiful, like, to see people realize that you are still connected to your loved ones, and we have a direct channel. Like, you don't have to be gifted, you don't have to take a special $2,500 course, right? Like, you just have to open up and believe that you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. This made me think, I was just writing about an experience that I had where it was actually one of my first really profound plant medicine experiences. And after that, I was on a cruise, actually, and after I had this, I felt like I was opened wide up, and I was engulfed in the stream of consciousness, and I was able to ask questions, and the door was wide open. And then for the next several days of the cruise, the remainder of the time, people were just coming up to me and telling me their life stories and telling me about their deceased loved ones, and I didn't have any messages for them, but it just was like one after the other, and people coming and crying to me. And it was so significant that when I got to the airport, I'm like, I need to get to my plane. I hope that whatever's happening here is done, because like I've got shit to do now. And so I keep my head down. I'm trying not to make eye contact with anybody. And I go, but I had to get something to eat. I got something to eat. And the guy who sat next to me started going on and on about his estranged son, and again started crying and hugged me. And all I did was sit and hold space for these people. I did nothing else, but it was clear that there was a channel that was opened, and I didn't know how to close it. And thankfully, by the time I got home, it had naturally closed because I had to go about my day-to-day life.
Right.
But so how, for you, it sounds like you probably have experience, like you just said, in the parking lot with the cheddar cheese. How do you manage, do you have tools to close the channels?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that I want to mention really quickly that you said, like, I was so open and I didn't really know like what I was supposed to do with it. That's another barrier that I think people have of, well, if I open myself up, like, do I have to like be responsible for helping someone heal from the trauma that their loved one caused them? Like, I'm not ready to do that kind of work. And it's sometimes exactly what you're saying, 9 times out of 10, holding space, allowing that person to be witnessed and to share in that grieving or share in that witnessing, right, of that vulnerable moment for them. And then the other thing that you said was, you know, I didn't know how to turn it off. Well, it wasn't time, right? Spiritually, your team was like, all right, girl, we got you in this place. You got work to do. People that need your messages, we're going to open you up. And you're just going to be open and have to trust that for whatever reason, this is how your energy and how you as a vessel can be used in your highest and best good for all, right? And then when you're done, we'll close it and you can go rest for 4 days and like eat chocolate cake and be happy. So I think for me, like that's been my biggest tool, is to know some of it you can control, and then depending on like how deep you get into it, like I do this professionally, so I don't have a chance of if I'm going to like communicate and tap in, like people have paid me to read for them and I will read for them.
Right.
So for me, it's more about lifestyle and making sure that I am taking care of myself energetically. I'm, going to counseling if I need mental health support, and having that sounding board and keeping that ego voice in check. Making sure my diet is good and I'm not eating processed foods all the time, unless I'm on my period, and then I'm going to eat as much processed shit as I want, because that's that phase. Just making sure that I'm supporting my entire being, and then also like showing my team that when you give me something, I will act on it, right? And then it's a two-way street, because they have a job to do. I signed up for this. There's a soul contract. I decided I was going to be, what they say, God's strongest warriors. Like I signed up for that package times 10.
Something that you said about the listening and following. I think as people are developing their intuition, I kind of see intuition as like, it's related to mediumship, but it's really just your own personal guidance, whereas mediumship is more like you're helping other people more. But I think as you're listening to your intuition, I think when you get those messages, even if they're really small, it's acting on it is really, really important to help strengthen it. And one example with you was when I think in one class you were like, I think you need coconut water. And I was like, as soon as I left, I went to one store, they didn't have it. So I went to another store and I got that coconut water and I drank it. I don't know why. I don't think I don't know why I need it, but I think it's that like, it's just that showing faith and that you're going to listen will then allow more of that to happen.
Right. Because when you're tapping into this work, this is high energy work. So you're going to deplete nutrients a lot faster than normal people. It's like energetically running a marathon. So I work with a lot of people that step into this ascension process and they're like, I feel like crap. That's why you get ascension symptoms. Like, how do I navigate this? Well, you're short on magnesium. You're short on, I had somebody that was short on sulfur, right? Electrolytes is pretty common for the coconut waters. Usually when I tell people you need to be drinking coconut water. And sometimes I don't know why, right? Like I just know your spirit guide came in and they said coconut water, and I'm going to tell you coconut water and apply that and see where it goes, right? And I think that's the big thing is too, like, there is no right or wrong. You kind of have to trial and error it and see what feels right for you and implement it and be like, oh, wow, I drank coconut water and that gave me so much more energy. And then I felt like I could hear my team more and I wasn't such in like I just need to rest. Like I'm more energized. So I have more motivation.
So going back to where you began with the music therapy, and so tell me a little bit about your evolution from that to where you are now, but also the role that music can play as people connect to their intuition and to their spirit guides.
Yeah. So I think for me, it was kind of my segue into trusting your intuition. So I think for the longest time, I really didn't claim like I'm a medium, I'm a psychic, I'm just very intuitive. I just happen to like be right all the time. And I think through music therapy, I did hospice work, so there's a lot of deep emotional stuff there. But it was almost like I felt like I could read somebody's mind energetically and be like, I feel like this song just popped into my head and it definitely fits clinically, so let me throw that out there and see what happens. And then I'll be damned if it wasn't like the exact song that their loved one used to, like there was a very special meaning associated to that song.
Wow.
And it facilitated some type of deep healing. So one, it was like that buildup of trust of knowing like, oh wow, like this is more than just having a really strong clinicianship and being a good music therapist. Like that was something that I received from the divine to like implement. So I think being able to see people go through that process, and then also as I got more into some advanced training, I got into guided imagery and music, sometimes known as GIM, and it's using music to bypass the ego, to get yourself into an expanded state of consciousness, to where all these like safety mechanisms that our little survival brain puts into place so that we don't look at those big scary things, right? Music helps us bypass that and do it in a way that we don't have to have language around, right? Like it's about the feeling. You don't really need to understand it. You'll understand it after you feel it, right? So being able to use music in very intentional ways to help people just open up and expand more. And if it's a clear ability for you that's more hearing based, right, or if it's more visual, if you see a lot of symbols in meditation, a lot of people that are more clear and empathetic, they feel things where they'll just see visualizations and colors, and they get really frustrated because they're like, what the hell does this color mean, right? And it's like, well, it's symbolic because that's your entry point, right? So using music to really just be that container to take you deeper and just make you feel safe, make you feel seen and heard and validated, and then give you something tangible to integrate it all with.
Something I've been thinking a lot about actually since I did an ayahuasca journey several weeks ago, and my experience was that I ended up having to drink 3 cups, and it was my first time using ayahuasca, and it took me a really long time to kind of be engulfed by the medicine, but the facilitator, the shaman, was this amazing musician, and I was sitting and listening to the music, and it was just so beautiful, and I felt like he was singing just for me, and it was through the music, but not just the music, but the emotion that I felt. I was not taken to the other place until I felt intense emotion. And the music was the gateway for me to feel that emotion, because what it came in was a longing and a sadness for missing somebody, and that was then what allowed me to connect intensely with the other. And it sounds like that's what you were providing for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I still try to do that, right? Like I still, even the meditations and the classes that I've done, like we use it in a certain way, and maybe not as intense as like a 45-minute guided journey through your psyche and like past lives, but using it in an intentional way that just helps that filter come down, right? Because a lot of us, whether we want to or not, that's our survival mechanism. We come from that fight, flight, freeze response. So having something that's going to soften that. Right?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot too about how it's a different kind of relationship with emotions. The relationship where you're seeing your emotions as a gateway versus your emotions as I think when you're analyzing your emotions in a logical way, that's how we can get stuck in our heads and actually detaches us from our intuition or our connection. But if you see it as a gateway and allow the emotion to flow through you, rather than having the emotion and it getting stopped in your brain, it's just a completely different experience. Do you experience that as well?
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? Like emotions, when we talk about this need to control our emotions, it's not, I have an emotion, I understand exactly what it is, and now I don't have to feel it because I know what it is. It's, I have this emotion, I don't have to understand what it is, I just need to feel it at the fullest capacity and be safe enough to do that. If I needed to be in a private space to do that and away from eyes, right, to do that and be vulnerable with myself, then that's what I need to do. And again, moving that emotion is what gets you to the other side of it, and then you're able to assign that logic to it of, oh, that put me here, moving through that landed me here, and now I see what that was about. Now you have that like overarching understanding of why the hell we even go through suffering in the first place.
Right.
It's not for no reason, right? Like
Yeah. And I've heard it said several times that when people are grieving, it's when they're actually the most connected to the spirits, the other universe. In your hospice work, what kinds of experiences did you have with people who were confronting death and dying?
Oh, wow. So one, I think the biggest takeaway for me that was most motivational is that people really will wait until the last couple months of their life, or sometimes the last few days of their life, before they're willing to confront things that have been eating at them and gnawing away at them.
Wow.
How much coulda, shoulda, wouldas, if I would have just done this, I wish I could have, right? And like,
wow,
your work it's gonna be done in this lifetime. If you want to save it for the last 2 hours of your life, that's a very difficult process.
Yeah.
So like, not to be too morbid here, but there was a lot of inspiration to be like, okay, face your darkness, because there is nothing darker than having to do that when you are like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, half, half transitioned and half still on this earth. So that was a big thing, I think, that was a big takeaway from hospice. I also got to see people not care and got to embody some of that as well, of like, this really doesn't matter. Like, this person that is just annoying me, I would love to have this person have that friendship in my life, but it's causing more hassle than it is good. So let that person go, and it's not that serious, right? There are things that you can shift your perspective on to really get to the core of like what actually truly matters. The other craziest thing that I think I realized doing hospice work as a music therapist, a big population I worked with were folks that had dementia or Alzheimer's disease. When that veil is gone, when that filter is gone, baby, the mediumship messages that would come through. I think that's also what sold it to me. It's like I would be talking to people that had like full-blown dementia, and music therapy techniques are like help orient people. So yes, naturally they're going to be able to communicate a little bit better. But it would go further than just them being able to say more words. Like they would straight up deliver me a message, and they would look into my soul and say something to me, and I would be like, that came from somebody else. Like that did not come from a human ego mindset. Like that was a channeled message before I even knew what channeled messages were. So again, just to like solidify and reiterate that we all have the abilities within us. It's just how much are you willing to open up to that? And you don't have to go full on in, right, if you're not comfortable with it. But at least being able to know, hey, my spirit guides are trying to protect me here, or they're trying to push me in this direction, or, it feels like I can really trust my spiritual guidance that's coming through, right? Whatever framework you look at it, if it's prayer or if it's spell work, right?
Yeah, I love that we live in a world where there's so many different avenues to kind of get to the same thing. And another thing is, we all have different specialties, like gifts that allow us to better have entry into those things. And so one class I took with you was about the clairs. Can you talk a little bit about all of the different clairs, and maybe folks can think about what is theirs, like what speaks most to them? How are they hearing these messages?
Yeah, so just like we all have sensory abilities like sight and touch and taste and hearing, we have extrasensory abilities, and they take those sort of senses and they deepen them. So some people, I say, have the wires connected in their brains, right? Some people's wires are a little stronger when they come out of the womb. So those are those kids that are like giving full-on messages and being like, hey, did you know that there's 3 layers of the afterlife? And like, did you know that grandma helped me pick this body to come? Like the kids say some crazy things that are like really in their expanded states. But then there are people that like it's just like a little taste of it, right?
Right.
So like a lot of people, like that woman's intuition is one of the things that I think a lot of people can admit, like, oh, like sometimes I do just have like a gut knowing of what's the right thing to do here. So I was, for one, I thought I was claircognizant as my first clair, when in reality I'm probably primarily clairaudient.
Okay.
So I mostly am getting like hear, talk. I feel like I'm talking to myself, and that was that barrier for me of, am I talking to myself? Or like, are there actually messages coming through, and can I actually interact with this in a different way? So learning kind of like what naturally comes in for you. A lot of people are very empathetic, right? Those empaths, clairsentient. You just feel things. And those people, I feel like, have a very difficult time feeling like they're in control, because there's just energy coming at you all the time. There's ways you can navigate that. Then you have people that are like really talented with like the clairtangency, and they can like pick up an antique and just tell, like, I feel like this is negative, or like there's something going on here. And then people that can tell a full history of like where this object has been, who owned the object.
Wow.
Everybody is so unique and so beautiful. And I think because we all have unique little individual jobs here that we were assigned to do, the way that spirit communicates is one, how we're going to be able to receive it, but also how they're able to communicate, right? Sometimes it's best for a message to come through like, I don't know if that azalea message would have come through as strong if I didn't have the visual association of pink azaleas. I could have said like, there's some like pink flower that I'm seeing, but because I could tie in the claircognizance as well as the clairvoyance and know that the pink flowers I was seeing were an azalea, because like that's pretty hard to distinguish like what exactly that flower is.
Right.
But I knew it was a pink flower and I knew it was an azalea, and I could see that. So it's like, how do they all tie together? Just like your muscles, right? You can't just use one muscle. You have to use all of them to like get yourself moving throughout the day. So your clear abilities are no different, and it's the more you practice them, the more you strengthen them, the more others start to come in and work a little bit more strongly, and then you give your team, a spirit team, a smorgasbord of opportunities and avenues to tap into you.
And then also when you're helping other people, you're able to give them kind of the image or the sound or the different pieces of information in the way that they can best receive it.
Exactly, right. Like if, I don't know, like the cheddar cheese was like so significant. I keep thinking about that in my head as like, I don't know if that had come through any other way, like, I don't know. Even if I think I would have said mac and cheese to her, it may have got close, but I think she was so keyed on that memory of being in the kitchen with mom while she was shredding the cheese.
Right.
And like that image of that block of cheese in her mom's hand, it wouldn't have had the same emotional attachment for her to just hear mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Like she still would have been like, that's significant, but she wouldn't have had that, like you were talking about, that emotional response that pushed her through. And that was the job, right? It wasn't like make meaning of it, deliver a message. It was just like, I'm here and I'm with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all we need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then that opens the door for people to realize that connection is there. It's always there.
Yeah. And then you can use it in very stupid ways, like, I really don't feel like picking what restaurant I want today. So, like, can you, like, throw a taste in my mouth of what I'm craving, right? Or, I feel like I need, like, to update my style. Can you, like, show me some things that I might like to wear? Help me pick out my outfit. Like, sometimes it's not serious, right? It can be simple little silly things, right? What kind of offerings do you like? Do you like coffee or white wine? Freya is so funny. I love talking with her specifically because she will... to me, because I am clairaudient, I hear her a lot, but she will tell you straight up, like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. So it can be kind of low stakes communication. It doesn't have to be like to save the world all the time.
That's it can be so fun. And that makes me think too that I see so many people come to mediums or tarot card readers for relationship advice. It seems like that is the thing that people have the most questions about. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with that, and also like, why is that? Why do people have so many questions about relationships? I mean, they're hard, and that's the easy answer, but what else?
Well, relationships are our biggest teacher.
Yeah.
Relationships mirror back everything about ourselves, our good qualities and our bad qualities. There's a beautiful oracle card in a deck that I love, and it's called the Magic Mirror. And when I first pulled that card, I used to get so pissed because I'd be like, I hate that this is how it is, but it's the damn truth. That every single quality that you admire in another person, you admire it because you embody it. Likewise, every single quality that annoys you in another person, you embody that too, and that's why it annoys you. You don't exhibit it in the exact same ways,
right?
But it exists within you. So there's that element of like mirroring back our shadow work and mirroring back like our healing. And then you get into the mind reading of divine connections. I work a lot with twin flames or people that have past life relationships, that we use each other as tools and as resources to help trigger, sometimes for good and sometimes for, well, always for good, but sometimes uncomfortably, right? To trigger us into the healing work that we wouldn't be able to do any other way. And I think for a lot of goddesses or divine feminines, it's that trusting our intuition and trusting what we were sensing, because a lot of feminines have, regardless of gender, have not been able to speak their truth in a relationship, or have not been able to be seen as powerful or valued or an equal partner for generations. So this is like generational healing that happens. So I was somebody that, like, I personally had a lifetime of really crappy karmic relationships. And I'm like, why do I keep getting these terrible relationships? It's because I'm healing something generationally, a feminine wound, so that my children don't have to experience, or even me for the rest of my life, I don't have to experience that anymore. I'm able to be confronted with absolutely every single thing that could prevent me from feeling happy, feeling authentic, feeling valued as a partner. So all these things that, like, we work out through relationships are just to make ourselves better. Yeah. It's just sometimes it's easier to do that through the lens of another person than through that lens of self. So I think that's why we get so hung up on, like, what's going on here? Why don't I understand this? We get into the self-worth of it all. Why don't I have the right person? So it's just a great catalyst for change.
That makes a lot of sense. One thing I've been thinking about a lot recently too is that doubt is an intuition killer. And I think so often in relationships, and more often than not, it's the man deceiving the woman. And then the woman's response is, how did I not know that this happened? Like, how did I not know that he was cheating on me? And then I've seen a lot of people take that and then be like, well, if I wasn't able to see that this was happening, how do I ever trust myself again? Right. Do you help people in that way? Do a lot of people come with those kinds of questions?
So I think a lot of people, it just depends on where you're at in the journey. But I think there are a lot of people that want to understand, how did they get themselves in that place? Because it's not just rebuilding trust with another person, it's rebuilding trust with yourself.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think not seeing it as threatening, right? And that's a hard thing to do because it's threatening. Right. So to be able to, like, kind of reparent yourself and be gentle, and like, it's safe to explore this. Right. That's the piece of it, is you look at divine feminine, divine masculine, and some, like, female presenting people are sent with divine masculine journeys, right? So it gets a little messy. But divine masculines are sent to be activated, right? To take this intuitive download that they get, or this knowing that they have, and to act on it. So this knowing that we get to share as divine feminines, and then we're deceived, and it's like, well, hang on, where was I wrong in that? It's like, well, you weren't wrong in that. You were right, and they can't admit that they were the wrong one, and that's what their activation journey looks like. Right? So sometimes those divine feminines start to internalize all of that and be like, well, I can't trust myself because, like, look what they showed me. No, they're the one that's not living their truth. So that's why it happened. Confront that, go deep into that, and that way you can overcome that framework of thinking, so you can operate differently.
So what do you wish people knew more of when it comes to these kinds of practices and opening up these channels? Like, I think that there's a lot of misconception and things that hold people back from being open. And so what do you wish people knew about you and the work that you do?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, just in general, like, how accessible a lot of this is, right? That I think that the big thing is, I've got to know absolutely everything about the history of tarot, and I need to know everything about all these things, and, like, take the certifications and the classes, and then once I do that, then I can. If you literally just sit down and say, show me this thing, pay attention to how that comes into your body. How do you perceive what comes into you? What information you receive there, right? It's so accessible, that this, like, spiritual gatekeeping thing that we do of, like, I'm the only one that can give you the answers. Like, you're the only one that can give you the answers. I can help you. I can ask you the right questions, right? And position things in the right frame for you to work that out for yourself. But it's so much more accessible. It really is a conversation, like, you're sitting down with a friend and say, okay, like, girlfriend, like, what do we need to talk about today? Like, what am I missing here? Because I know that I did not come to this crazy earth and to, like, understand this assignment with no support team, right? So just being aware that always is going to exist because you came to earth with that. And I think about, for me, what I do, I'm a spirituality coach. So I'm always going to be tapping into my mediumship abilities, my psychic abilities, my, clinician background as a board certified mental health practitioner, and like how humans just process emotions and things. So really, no matter like what level of humanness you're currently in, right? Because alignment is being able to be with your human and be with your divine at the exact same time. So depending on whatever level of humanness you're coming in with, I have pretty good tool belt to be able to help you figure out what the steps forward, because they're constantly navigating, constantly changing. You're creating your own reality about what you want.
Right.
So if you start creating a reality and you don't like where it's going, you can change that and start calling in something new for yourself. Right? This world is so abundant. The divine is so abundant that every single one of us can have our soul's desires and needs met without somebody else missing out or being taken from.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about spirit teams. I'm somebody who I don't have relationships with my spirit guides. I haven't, thought of anybody and talked to them by name. And, but a lot of people do. A lot of people like really thrive in building those relationships and having it be a give and take. Talk a little bit about that and how that can help people expand in their practice.
My favorite topic.
Yeah.
I think it really is your own personal comfort and your own personal preference. Some people come from this really strict vein of Christianity where we're very monotheistic, and that's your channel, then talk to God, right?
Yeah.
Like talk to the angels, whatever it is you need to talk to. And also I think there's like this barrier that we get ourselves into of being like, well, how do I know I'm talking to the right one, or how can I be sure that I'm talking to the right person? Or people say like your spirit guides will find you, and that's pretty common. Like they will find you, they will reach out to you. But you also have autonomy. Like if you really want to work with, like I work with Bridget, if you want to work with Bridget, sit down and talk to Bridget and be like, hey, let me get to know you. Start looking into some research, getting as close to the culture as you can. So like for Bridget's, I try to like go to Irish pagan school to make sure that I'm getting Irish pagan materials that I can authenticate are actually Bridget's stories. And then building relationship with her, seeing how her stories relate to my personal story,
right.
and why she would want to work with me, right? Because it's a mutual relationship. And then I think some people, it's just about who wants to work with you at a certain point in time. So you may have spirit guides that cycle through that say, hey, you're at a certain phase in your life where you're getting ready to cross a threshold or embody a new energy or having a vibration change. So we've assigned somebody that can help navigate that for you. So for instance, I had a fun little visit the other night in my dreams. Like I said, I'm primarily Irish pagan, but you can really pull. In the club, we all fam. So everybody gets to come and party. So I had an interesting dream. Well, Miriam visited me, Moses' sister.
Wow.
And I got to like look into some of her story, and I know she got to lead people through the journey through the desert through song and dance and drumming as a music therapist and the stuff that I was like, wow, that's a similarity that I have with her. And then back to that primary story of her questioning, why are the men the only one that get to speak and be seen as a prophet? Like, how come they are the only ones that get to be seen? And then there's like some story about her being like smitten with scales, but the people were like, nah, fix that, change that. And it was changed. Because that's the truth. Like, there's something very empowering right now, I think, about feminine energies being able to step forward and be authentic in their power and their truths, straightening those crowns, right, and taking their places on those pedestals, because they are quite literally were on pedestals to preach, to share the divine knowledge, and help people integrate, right? Because it's not just talk, this is how it is, and like they told me this, so you do it too. That's a very divine masculine way of doing things.
Yeah.
Divine feminine is, I don't know, how does it make you feel? Does that feel right? Let's do it.
Right. Yeah, I really imagine all of the divine feminines who came before us, I think, are feeling this moment and utilizing us to expand upon this moment that we're in. And that's the reason why I chose Goddess in Training as the name of this podcast, because there's so much wisdom that comes from them, and you can hear their stories, you can read their stories, but you can also feel their stories. And I think their stories are literally inside of us, and we're helping work through the generational trauma that women have experienced. And I think women's voices have been suppressed, and I think now it's a time when we're meant to really speak out.
It's an interesting, and this is probably going to be a polarizing topic, so we'll see if we keep it in here, but it makes me think of when I was a little girl. I grew up in the Christian tradition and had a lot of trauma from being able to communicate to the other side and be like, we've got a lot of it right, but there's a lot of it that's like, is not right. And I remember hearing the idea of heaven, and you get to go to this happy place, and you're with your family that you love, and you're just there for forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And I was freaked the fuck out. And I was like, why? What's the point?
Yeah.
What is the point of all of that? And now I've learned, like, yes, there are zones of heaven where you can go and, like, extended vacation and, like, take some space from as far from the earthly world as possible. That does exist. But there are also other zones where people are meant to come back. You're meant to be that healer for divine feminine energy, right? We're constantly raising that vibration to do the things that the women before us weren't able to do, or the feminine energies before us couldn't do safely, right? So just to be able to, I don't know, just like release that anxiety, right? Of like, well, actually, just because the large population says that this is the way it is, I can allow myself a different belief from what feels authentic and what feels like, this is what I know because this is what my people are telling me, and it feels so true in my body, and it doesn't give me anxiety. So how could, how could it be wrong?
Yeah, exactly. I just think it's an amazing time to be alive, honestly.
It really is. And if you don't see it that way, my shadow work book available is for $10.
Often when I spend time with you, you have entities come and kind of bother you.
Yes.
And they have things that want to be said. And as we've been sitting here, you said that there's this diva energy around. So what are you seeing, and what does she want to say?
Let's figure out who this is, because she definitely wants to come forward, and like, I don't get to control it, so I take the stance.
Yeah.
So it feels like she is a very like Hollywood starlet kind of energy. And I think she has red hair because she keeps like looking at my red hair and then touching her own. She is stepping forward mostly to like help you overcome any sort of like confidence barriers that you have with putting yourself out on screen and like having people see you. She's like, I'm actually seeing her almost like send you energy. It's like a spiral of energy that comes from her heart space into more of like your solar plexus area. She's really just here as a helper to like help you realize you're a bad bitch. I think she has some...
I always use a boost.
Yeah, like she wants to go shopping with you.
I could use fashion help, so yeah.
She would definitely be like willing to go to stores with you, and like if you have like your pendulum, or like I'm terrible, I'll just have my car keys out in public and they'll like be a little makeshift pendulum for me. But I'll ask them like what should I get? She wants to like I think help pick you out some wardrobe things.
That would be very helpful.
Pretty much all like the glitzy glammy type things. It feels like that's what she's stepping forward to do. But she was being loud because she just wanted to be acknowledged and seen and heard.
Now, can you see like what like somebody looks like? Is it more of like an energy that you're feeling and you're hearing things?
Sometimes it really honestly depends on how people want to come through. I've had like full body apparitions kind of like appear in my mind's eye to where I can tell like what somebody's hair texture might look like, or sometimes they'll show like prominent facial features. Confirmation burps. I was going to say she has freckles.
Okay.
So I could like see that she has freckles. And then sometimes it's more of just like that gut knowing of like, I know this is how you look. So in my mind, I now have something I can equate to. Like Archangel Raphael loves to show up a certain way. So in my mind, I hear Santa Claus mixed with Gandalf. And it's basically how Archangel Raphael appears.
Okay.
But I'm using my own associations to kind of like form that mental image for me. So that's again where like knowing what your strongest clair ability is going to give you that permission to then form it and trust that you're not just making it up, because in a way you kind of are.
Yeah.
Right. But it's off of that clear knowing.
Right. Right. There's a fine line, I think, between imagination and receiving messages. They work in tandem. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because imagination, everything is like is a combination of all of our experiences.
That's why you can get a different reading or a different tarot reading from different people and have the similar kind of message come through, but they may give you different, like, explicit things to say, this is going to be really important for you to do this way. And then you get another reading done from a tarot reader and they say kind of the same thing, but it's important to do it this way. And you know both of those things are wrong. You actually need to do it this way, but it's still all within this vein because they're using their own associations and how their guides speak to them to try to deliver the message in the best way possible. So that's why it's important to be authentic and be yourself and know that the right person, my ears are ringing, the right person that needs to hear your message will be presented to you. You just have to be in that zone where when your spirit team says jump, you jump.
Yeah. When they say move to a new town and upend your life, you do it.
Okay. I hope I get an ice cream.
Gosh, this has been so much fun.
Yes.
Do you have anything else that's coming through? Can I be a little selfish? Do you have any? Do you want to pull an oracle card and see if there's anything else?
Let's pull one for you, and then we'll maybe do one or two for viewers
all right.
as a little takeaway here. So this is one of my favorite decks. Whether you're feminine or masculine, I use this pretty much for like all my clients that are ready for that integration, right? You've already kind of discovered what it is you need to do and you just kind of need that last little validation to push through. The Goddess Within Oracle, it is very, very great. So let's see what wants to come out for you today.
And say a little bit about oracle cards for people who are completely unfamiliar.
So oracle cards are going to be a lot more accessible than tarot cards. Because they're usually going to come with some sort of guidebook that has a very detailed message that you have to read, or it could be something simple like grace, and it's like, okay, I definitely need to give myself more grace today. So they're great tools to give you hard and fast advice on how to navigate life's challenges. Tarot is going to be a little bit more about trying to see the full picture and like taking things a little bit more deeply. So if you want to communicate with your guides and you're really new to mediumship or to tapping into your clair abilities, sometimes tapping in and then pulling an oracle card and then having the card say exactly what you were experiencing helps concrete that belief in yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
that's been my experience.
definitely love the oracle cards. They're very accessible.
Oh, well.
Do you love that Queen of Sheba is out for you?
Oh my gosh.
Such a beautiful card. Give that one to you and we'll just read her.
And she's got the crown that I have in my logo for Goddess in Training too. But I see she's got a skull behind her and there's some death there.
Yeah.
She's a bad bitch.
You are being reminded that you do not need to do anything to be deemed worthy of receiving. You are safe to tap into the abundant flow of the universe now. And I think that's why you're getting the podcast up and running, right? Like you're safe to know that you have permission to make whatever decisions you need to make to ensure that this channel is open and accessible, so that people can really start doing this work that you've implemented and you've seen changes in your own life. So yeah, you're definitely in a place of leadership.
And I like that she's surrounded by gold too, because you also need to provide for yourself as you're helping other people.
Right.
But I think that that manifestation and walking the path that you're supposed to walk, those things come. I think that's what she's saying a little bit too.
Absolutely. And I think knowing you and knowing your story, like that's really been what you've been focused on is, I know I need to walk this path. I take a few steps and now the universe is going to throw a few stumbling blocks to see if I really want it. right? Do I really want to continue to be on this path? Because if I do, I'm going to go ahead and move that obstacle. I might have to reach over here and use this part of myself, but that's why that obstacle came out, to remind me I have this part of myself and I can use it in this way.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true. That is true.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Let's do one for your reader, or to your viewers.
All right.
She didn't come out.
No.
Let's do one for the viewers then. Ooh, Demeter! I love Demeter. First of all, Demeter's story is great. This is Persephone's mom.
We were just talking about her too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite stories is actually Balbo, who is in the myth of Demeter. When Persephone was taken to the underworld and Demeter was so inconsolable with grief, the only thing that got her to laugh, Balbo literally just flashed her. And she like broke out into laughter, and it was like that moment for her to like get out of that deep emotional experience and like reconnect with the other parts of the human experience, right? Like, and I think that when we're going through big experiences, going through deep heartbreak or going through transformation or ascension, it can be really easy to stay in a low vibration or stay in the funk, rather than have something that's going to counterbalance that and kind of pull us out and remind us that, hey, we weren't here just to experience doom and gloom. We need that to ascend and tap in, but we were also sent to play, and we were, able to tap into fun and joy and pleasure, and not have to be so in the work all of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a great place to end. And I think a lot of us are kind of experiencing a lot of transition. And it's so important to remember that we are here to experience everything, and play is a huge part of that. So I hope all my listeners will take that away from this and go out and play this afternoon or later today, whenever you're listening to this. Mage Marigold, thank you so much for being here. And real quick though, what's next for you? What are you excited about that's coming up?
Next for me, really exciting, I think just giving people more opportunities to be more empowered on their journey. So I have an entirely new guided grimoire that's accessible. I think one of the big things with spell work or energy work, as what it really is you feel like you have to have the right correspondences and all the right tools and all the things, and your mind is more powerful. Music therapy, I got to see people absolutely get rid of their pain with nothing but their mind and music.
Wow.
So, your mind is all that you need. So I have all different kinds of spells, whether you're trying to kind of cut cords with somebody, whether you're amplifying your own love or manifesting your desires. So you can download those on my website. And then I also am focusing more on my spirituality coaching. So people that are really ready to take the next phase of their journey, like they feel like, okay, I know I got to do something big here, and I've made a lot of changes recently, and I don't quite know what all of that means. Really working on helping people sort through that and navigate those pieces independently.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Again, thank you so much, and there'll be more details in the show notes about where you can find Mage Marigold and all the services that she offers, and her TikTok, which is really fun. And thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Seshat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor del fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rapé, soplo de luz, soplo encantado, viajecito, bendición del cielo, fortaleza, tigrecito de nacer.